What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Okay, so I've got a massive debunk. We've been hearing from, the corporate press news that all of this stuff that Elon Musk is finding, that's just nonsense. That's humanitarian assistance, isn't it? And now, what we are getting is more manipulation from the corporate press. Now what they're trying to do is they've debunked everything, which, by the way, if you're just interested in the debunk, skip to about, 12, 13 minute mark. And that's about where this is going to be. I haven't laid this video out as far as timeline, so I have no idea where it's going to actually fall out. That's just my guesstimation. So skip 10, 12 minutes ahead if you want to see the actual debunk on the condoms for Gaza thing. That's going to be in here. So get ready for that, and we're going to debunk that outright. We're going to debunk the debunk, if you will, because, yeah, all that was debunked by the corporate press, but come to find out. Hang on just a second. They're playing semantics. Yes, they play semantics all the time. Once again, manipulation by the corporate press is pervasive, y'all. And we're going to get into this. But let's go ahead and dive on. Son of a bitch. Let's go ahead and dive into this right quick so we can get to it, if we will. Check this out, y'all. Back in their districts, GOP lawmakers get an earful on Doge and Musk. Now, what this is doing, okay, so this is media manipulation 102, if you will. This is the next step, I guess. This is the more advanced class. You gotta love these people, man. What this does is this puts out the narrative that the narrative that they want to sow has the backing of the people, right? So they try to make you believe this is what they did with the trans stuff. And as was shown in 2024 by electing Donald Trump, yeah, that's not the case. That is not the case. And they're trying to do this again to make Trump look more or less popular, if you will. Let's get into this right quick, y'all, because it's fascinating, y'all. Fascinating as hell. Check this out. The crowd packed into City Hall and filled an overflow room with one question above all for their Republican congressman. What did he think of Elon Musk's slash and burn mission to shrink the federal government? Their Atlanta suburb in a solid red district was hardly a hub of liberal resistance, but hundreds had shown up to confront Rep. Richard McCormick in person. Now, what that's basically telling you is, hang on, so you got a Republican rep showing up to his district. So that is leading you to believe that this is all Republicans giving all this backlash. So let's just lay that out right quick. That's what they want you to think. Now, spoiler alert, that is not the case. But that's part of the manipulation, y'all. Like they said, and it's a solid red district. Love it, y'all, love it. Now, each argument from the lawmaker brought a new round of shouts, groans, and boos, right? Making you think that these Republicans don't like what Donald Trump and Elon Musk are doing. So that would lead you to believe, if you're just an average everyday guy, that, hang on, is this really that bad? Well, Republican voters don't like it, so it must be bad, right? If you're going to just yell at me, that's not going to be an effective town hall, McCormick said 5 minutes into defending Musk's U.S. Doge service. But we're pissed, a woman shouted. Town halls this week for congressional Republicans from Georgia to Wisconsin to Oregon grew testy as voters showed up to vent outraged at the firings of workers and the Department of Government Efficiency's access to sensitive data. Protesters showed up around the country at lawmakers' offices. Now, what that would lead you to believe is that was Republican protesters. But as we'll come to find out, that wasn't the case, was it? The backlash extends far beyond federal workers in the Beltway, reaching purple districts that will decide control of Congress in 2026, and swing states like Georgia that helped return Trump to the White House. Layoffs just hit the Atlanta-based Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Funding freezes have halted clean energy projects championed by President Joe Biden. Yes. And so do you really think that Republican voters are getting out there pissed off about slashing the federal government? As a matter of fact, they're not. They are cheering this stuff on. At least I am. And at least everything I've seen from what I can tell online on social media, on YouTube, everywhere I go, from news, blah, 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 blah. Right? So eventually, like I said, spoiler alert, they'll let you know that, yeah, hang on just a second. That was all liberals. Right? And of course they're going to be yelling and screeching about this because it's Trump. Like, I just wonder, I really do wonder, what the backlash would be if this was, I don't know, Pete Buttigieg going around and slashing all the federal workforce and cutting all these programs and blah, 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 blah. I just really, really wonder about that because I really don't think we would have such a backlash, if you will. But, you know, it is what it is. The crowd at McCormick's town hall Thursday night was decidedly liberal. Once again. But new Washington Post iPost polling suggests some of Trump and Musk's moves are unpopular beyond the Democratic base. About 6 in 10 Americans surveyed were opposed to shutting down the U.S. Agency for International Development, which Musk bragged about feeding into the wood chipper. Now, here we go with some polling. Now, I've expressed many concerns about polling because how they say this, oh, this is the survey of Americans. Well, it's not really, because they survey the same people over and over and over and over again. But once again, you know, they'll only survey about 1,200 people. So that's not really a good consensus on what the rest of the country feels. But also, their methodology is broken at this point because, like they said 6 in 10 Americans support USAID. But do they really? The question is, the corporate press, the Democrats, the narrative about USAID, like if you were to ask somebody, do you think we should shut down USAID to third world nations? That would lead you to believe that it's humanitarian assistance, right? And this is why the corporate press and the mainstream news, they keep telling you, they keep pounding it into your head that Donald Trump has shut off aid to other countries. But he hasn't. We've proven that several times on this channel, that no, the freezes for humanitarian assistance, food, clothing, basic necessities, that hasn't been frozen. That is still going out. That is all still going out. So he hasn't frozen aid. He shut down these nonsense, ideologically driven programs that are not necessary to people's survival. That's what he has done. But the mainstream news, they keep calling this aid. So do you want to shut down U.S. aid? No, because it hasn't been shut down. What they should ask these people is, do you want to shut down $50 million for contraceptives to Gaza? They would probably say yes. Let's keep going. Republicans have overwhelmingly backed DOJ's mission and even moved to replicate it at the state level, including in Georgia. But they're also struggling to justify the scope of some cuts and scrambling to get exceptions for their constituents, in some cases lobbying the Trump administration to restore federal funding to their states. Anna Foy teared up as she waited with her mother to watch McCormick's town hall from Overflow. The 33-year-old Army reservist said the Bureau of Land Management had abruptly rescinded a job offer wrangling wild horses. She spoke to someone in McCormick's office, she said, and was here to follow up. Now, once again, that to me sounds like a program that we currently don't need to be doing, right? What I would love for these people to do is learn exactly what the government is spending money on before they say, okay, well, I just lost my job with the government. I was supposed to be wrangling some horses, right? Is that necessary to the function of the government at this point? Because if these people learned that we are spending money in a deficit to do all of this, $1.8 trillion, do you think they would be like, oh, maybe I'll go find a job somewhere else? I'm just saying. Like, if these people really understood the position that the federal government is in right now, that we're spending that much money in a deficit, they might agree to some of these cuts. If they understood that under the Biden administration, the federal workforce itself was expanded by about 40%, would they take a back when hearing that number, considering they have millions of employees? Expanding it 40% at that point, that's absurd on its face. Do you think that would make them take a back and be like, maybe this is a good thing? Maybe if they learn that we can't keep doing this forever, we have to continually raise our debt ceiling to keep spending in a deficit, to keep up the Ponzi scheme that is currently the federal government. Take your money and waste it on nonsense. I don't think you would get 6 in 10 Americans to say we need to shut down, right? I think 10 of 10 Americans would be like, nah, I think we need to take a step back from this. I've worked 6 years to develop my resume around this job, Foy said. I don't know what to do when the town hall finished. She waited to speak with the congressman's staff. She didn't want to talk about politics because of her Army role, she said. She wanted her job back. The Bureau of Land Management did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Anna Kelly, a White House spokesperson, said in a statement that the Trump administration is already uncovering waste, fraud, and abuse across federal agencies. Ultimately, President Trump will cut programs that do not serve the interests of the American people and keep programs that put America first, just as 77 million voters elected him to do so, she said. Around the country, other Republican House members face sharp questions after heading home for recess. Liberal groups encourage their members to show up to town halls in deep red territory. There you go, corporate press. You finally freaking told us the truth. So this isn't Republican districts, is it? Well, it is Republican districts, but it's people from outside those districts, from blue districts, going into these town halls to yell, rail, gnash their teeth, cry more about what Elon Musk and Donald Trump is doing. You could have put this in the first paragraph, but you chose not to because you want to manipulate everybody into thinking that, hey, the entire country hate what Elon Musk is doing. I hate this. I can't stand these people for that. In rural La Grande, I guess Oregon, because they put just O-R-E, so I'm assuming that's Oregon, attendees of Rep. Cliff Bent's town hall erupted in boos and shouted, "Tax Elon." Tax Elon, huh? Do you really think it's fair that Elon Musk paid $11 billion in taxes in 2021? That's a lot of money, y'all. That is the most money anybody has ever paid in taxes in American history. According to local news outlets, The Observer, in Ohio, Rep. Troy Balderson acknowledged some limits to Musk's authority at a luncheon, according to the Columbus Dispatch. And what he means by that is Musk doesn't have much authority at all. The only authority Musk wields is the authority of Donald Trump. Donald Trump tells Musk, yes, you're allowed to do this, so therefore he is allowed to do this. It's not just President Musk going all over the place. Congress has decided whether the Department of Education goes away, Balderson said. Not the president, not Elon Musk. Congress decides. That is right. But Republican lawmakers have mostly defended and declined to publicly criticize DOGE while endorsing its stated goals of rooting out waste in the federal government. And plenty of their base voters are eager for more cuts. Ask what they like about Trump's first month in office. Republican voters elsewhere in McCormick's conservative district sometimes brought up DOGE unprompted. Oh, it's that so? Huh, corporate press. You notice they put this, once again, y'all, this manipulation is crazy because they can't just blatantly lie about this. So what do? Knowing that people don't read the entire story all the way out, they'll read the headline, maybe the first few paragraphs. They put this stuff all the way at the end. Gotta love it, y'all. They rattled off all the things they'd heard their tax dollars were funding, occasionally echoing the White House's false claim that the government spent millions on condoms in Gaza. I am so thrilled with the Doge and going in and finding all this corruption, and I expect they'll find about $1 trillion, said 73-year-old Peggy Reese. She knew the CDC had just fired a bunch of people in Atlanta and figured some collateral damage was inevitable. Of course. Now, we're going to get back to that false claim, right? Let's finish this out because I got one last little page right here, so then we're going to get to that right quick. Anthony Smith, 65, said he didn't trust the CDC anyway because of its totally crazy response to the COVID-19 pandemic. I think Elon Musk is one of the best things that's happened to this country, Smith said while shopping in Roswell. Democrats have increasingly focused their opposition to the Trump administration on Musk and Doge, viewing the billionaire Trump donor as the perfect villain. They say an unelected businessman should not wield so much power over the federal government and accuse him and Trump of illegally usurping Congress's power of the purse by unilaterally canceling spending. Well, you know what? If the president doesn't have control over the executive branch, who does? This is an argument I've been making over the past several days, right? The Constitution vests all the power of the executive branch into the President of the United States. He controls the executive branch per the Constitution. That's not just me saying that. That is not just some far-right extremist saying that. That is what your Constitution says. And Congress has built executive branches outside of the purview of the executive branch. That is a fourth branch of the government, colloquially, I guess. Now, let's get into this whole Gaza thing, right? Because we've been told that that's fake news, right? Well, I saw this news article and went and did a little bit of digging, did a little bit of research just to figure this one out, because I thought the number was 50,000, right? I kept hearing, I thought it was 50,000, not 50 million. 50 million makes no sense on condoms when they're like 50 cents a piece. So I went and did a little bit of research, looked through a couple of spreadsheets, went through some government websites, and came across this interesting little fact check here that was way down on Google. Had to go through a couple of pages, but here's a closer look at the facts around this. The claim: the Trump administration stopped 50 million from being sent to the Gaza Strip to buy condoms for Hamas. Now, I already noticed right off the jump, they put to buy condoms for Hamas. Fact check false, right? The facts. Trump and his spokesperson appeared to be referring to a grant or grants that USAID awarded to a group called the International Medical Corps, worth $102.2 million to provide medical and trauma services in Gaza. The State Department earlier Wednesday described this as an example of egregious funding not aligned with American interests or the president's policies. But State Department spokesperson Tammy Bruce similarly wrote Tuesday on X that the agency had prevented $102 million in unjustified funding to a contractor in Gaza, including money for contraception, thanks to a pause in foreign assistance. Officials said the Trump administration stopped two $50 million buckets of aid for Gaza via the International Medical Corps, which included family planning programming, including emergency contraception, sexual health care, including prevention and management of sexually transmitted infections, and adolescent sexual and reproductive health. The $100 million for these programs included contraceptives, officials said, adding that condoms have traditionally always been used for family planning in developing countries by USAID. So, fact-checking the fact-check that comes out, the fact-check was false, wasn't it? That's what we heard. Oh, this is nonsense. Fact-check. Oh, we debunked that. But come to find out, yeah. Okay, so if you want to say that the fact-check saying that, oh, the $50 million was just for condoms, Well, that's false. Well, yeah, that's true. It wasn't just for condoms, was it? But it was for contraceptives. So, yeah, it was for condoms. Which is ridiculous, y'all. But, contraceptives can go well outside of condoms. That's also birth control, isn't it? The basic point of that is, why are we spending that much money for that? Now, hey, look, I can see, wanting to get rid of sexually transmitted diseases. Of course. But why is the United States paying for that in Gaza? That's the point here. We're wasting our money. You want to call that aid? Sure, go right ahead. But when it also includes, it's just sexual reproductive health for adolescents. I'm sorry. How about we try to find the underlying cause for that need for sexual reproductive health for adolescents? What does that tell you? Think about that for a second. Sexual reproductive health for adolescents. That's a nice way of saying something very disgusting, in my opinion. Very disgusting, and I'm not going to repeat it here. But it's absurd how they try to beat around the bush and say, it's for condoms. That's false. Well, yeah, because it wasn't just condoms, was it? No, it was all kinds of stuff. And then trying to come up with the argument saying, we only pay 50 cents for condoms. That would be 1 billion condoms for Gazans. That's absurd. They're stupid. Republicans are just dumb. Is that so? You gotta love it, right? You got to love it. So if you have been, excoriated by somebody online for repeating this talking point of $50 million for condoms, clip this out of this video and throw it in their face. Just right in their face. And say, you are the idiot here for denying this, right? The United States government spending a lot of money on dumb stuff, right? I don't think we need to be helping adolescents that have been assaulted. We'll put it that way. I don't like this idea. I understand having the availability for that in this country, right? In our own country, I understand having that availability there, right? Because nobody wants to live with that. Exactly. But, there is an argument there that, all life is precious, and I happen to agree with that. But if this is something, because, I don't think the government can dictate something that was forced upon somebody else. We'll put it that way. The government can't dictate that you should be forced to carry that to term. If somebody wants to terminate that situation, right from when it happened, right at the beginning, before development, right before it develops too far, I can get right on board with that, and I'll capitulate and say, okay, fine. That's fine with me. I'll allow for that. However, if you want the government to pay for that, I will stand against you. I don't think the government should pay for that. Don't think the government should pay for that at all. But honestly, that should be something that's free. Because all it is, generally speaking, for the most part, is a simple pill that doesn't cost very much. If the government wants to pay for that, sure. But, if you wait too long, I'm sorry, to have to pay for a procedure because you didn't decide what you wanted to do. If you have any questions, either get rid of it or decide to keep it. Either one, just do it quickly before it becomes a problem later. That's all I'm going to say about that. And I'm also going to say that if you're struggling with help in that area, look, don't be afraid to call somebody. Life is precious, especially, life once it develops, once it fully develops. In other words, once it's 6, 8, 9 weeks, it's pretty much all there. You got a brain, you got a heart, you got everything starting to develop rapidly at that point. It's too late at that point. Once it gets that heartbeat and that brain is developing rapidly, right? I don't think we should terminate that life. That's my opinion, because I was almost terminated at one point. And, yeah, that's a scary thought to think you might not have existed at all if it weren't for the decision of an abortion assistant. That's right. That's a long story that I might tell another day, but, debunked. So, y'all let me know what y'all think. That's all I got on this one, y'all. This is fascinating. The manipulation of the corporate press is unending on this type of thing. They wanted and tried like crazy to make you believe that Republicans are against this when they're probably not, right? It was liberals that went to these town halls to rail against Republicans. It's funny. This is also a manipulative tactic that Democrats pull off all the time to try to get Republicans to think that it's Republicans that don't like what Republicans are doing. Right? This is all manipulation, y'all, and don't let these people manipulate you. Share this video with anybody and everybody, I beg of you, right? Just to get people to understand the manipulation that is going on here. It's deep, it's pervasive, and it's non-stop. It's constant. But I think I've rambled on for long enough. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Don't forget to smash that like button for me. I would greatly appreciate that. Y'all share this video anywhere and everywhere you can. That would also be great. I would appreciate that as well. But y'all try to have a good day. Stay legitical, and peace.